by the chief scientist of the WMO, Mr. Jian Liu, and the chief scientist of UNEP, Dr. Pavel Kabat. So we can stand behind them with total confidence. But it would not surprise me if you didn't know the number of the country you represent. Because media doesn't share these numbers in a clear and fair way. Instead of these simple figures of required annual emission reductions, what do we normally hear? For example, the EU's target to cut emissions is 40% below 1990 levels by the year 2030. There are many problems with this kind of approach. Firstly, it's not clear what's happening year by year between now and 2030. It's not transparent. It's not democratic. Secondly, we need action now. Most of the emission cuts in these statistics are planned to happen in the future, which puts an extra burden on young people and also takes us further into the minefield of nature's tipping points. Thirdly, these numbers include monumental levels of negative emissions by a type and size of technology that remains a distant dream. And most importantly, we need figures that are calculated on consumption, not territory, and on per capita basis. There is only one atmosphere above our heads, and it must be divided equally. I am part of the ecology group that organized the first strike here in Brussels on the 20th of November last year. After this strike, we went away as a group and thought deep and hard about what the most effective actions could be. We concluded that unless the strikes had a concrete, accountable demand, then the lawmakers could simply ignore them. With our campaign, Cut 11%, we have the numbers that you need for a reliable and fair plan. It's so frustrating to see that the actions taken until now have not done much to protect our future. In fact, every single year since we have known about the threat of climate change, CO2 emissions have gone up. We have not even stabilized our emissions, and we need to get them down fast. Small individual actions are great, but they are not enough. To drastically reduce greenhouse gases emissions and stop the climate crisis, we need courageous changes at a legislative level, policies and investments based on the latest science. We have done our homework. It's time for you to do yours now. Firstly, please go and do your fact-checking on my speech. Check the sources and data. Secondly, please stand alongside us and the scientists. Fight for legislation that is rooted in the reality shown by scientific evidence. Thirdly, please fill in the questionnaire that we sent out this morning to every single MEP. It only takes less than 1 minute. We have established a child press center in Brussels full of young people who will be very interested in the results. We still have time, but not much. The next 5 years are the last legislative window we have to get a grip on the situation. Radical change will happen to us, whether we act or not. As our MEPs, you have to be brave enough to look at the full truth. We need you to be committed to climate policies that are based squarely on science. You have to be bold enough to put everything on the table. We demand clear per capita reductions from today. Please stop thinking only short term, listen to the scientists, and take immediate action. Thank you.